Welcome to the April 1st, 2016 edition of Colorado Inside Out Postgame, a special web exclusive production here on Channel 12. Let's get a quick take on a bipartisan bill attempting to make teen sexting a Class 2 misdemeanor is making the rounds in the legislature this week. House Bill 1058 is prompting a debate over whether the proposal could criminalize victims and or individuals who participate in sending photos consensually. Pat Cahoon from Westward. So the bill is from what I can understand, it's an initial attempt to take it what it's currently a felony. So if two teenagers in a high school are doing something that's probably not it's a risky behavior, but they can be tagged as sex offenders the rest of their lives. It's trying to reduce that, but there's still some other wiggle room here. From where the bill is at now, what do you think?
Well, we need some kind of fix because it's not just two teenagers. If you remember the Canyon City scandal of earlier this year, it was 200 teenagers. It was basically anyone who would set foot in the county. It was like they dropped their drawers, they texted pictures. And the district attorney actually took a very, very serious look at charging these kids because the only law that applied would have charged them with a felony. This wasn't smart behavior, it wasn't necessarily safe behavior, but it was not a felony for these teenagers to be sending each other pictures in what seemed to be a pretty much mutual thing. It wasn't that they were invading someone else's privacy and taking pictures. So the district attorney was smart not to charge them, but it was after a lot of pressure and discussion. In this case, it probably would make sense to have some kind of bill go through. So in a case like this where it is not being done against someone's will, these are just kids who are being stupid, it's not felony stupid, and I don't even think it's misdemeanor stupid, so a variation on this bill would be smart.
David Kopel from the Independence Institute and DU Law School. So going from a felony to a Class 2 misdemeanor, is that a good option for potential district attorneys to have, especially because there can be so many different things happening in the high school, whether it's just two kids doing something stupid or someone being coerced and other things going on. What do you think is the best option?
Well, coercion would get more back into the felony, sort of sex abuse kind of thing. But if it's consensual, it shouldn't be a crime at all. This is just ridiculous. There's a lot of stupid things that 25-year-olds, 45-year-olds, and 15-year-olds do, and those ought to be dealt with within the family or one's social network. And if you voluntarily send a naked picture of yourself to someone else who is a voluntary recipient, that should not be a crime. The fact that the Colorado Legislature, its only sort of tool that it has, is the hammer of creating a criminal law, doesn't mean that tool has any appropriate use in personal issues like this.
Ben Gilt, political consultant. When you look at this law, it's trying to address what was a pretty major issue from Canyon City earlier this year. Is it the right way to address it?
No. As David pointed out, they're using a hammer where maybe a chisel or something more refined would be appropriate. It's it's so difficult to legislate individual behavior in that way, and I think that when specific situations rise to the level of a criminal act, that's when something is appropriate. But if there's consensual behavior, or even as in Canyon City, and I suspect if it happened in Canyon City, it's probably happening in other places because kids will be kids. Thank God I wasn't a teenager when smartphones were ubiquitous. I did plenty of stupid things in my teenage years and early 20 years, and I'm sure some people would say even today. So it's absurd, and I hope that the legislature will, take a step back and maybe talk to some of their sons and daughters and reflect about, however many years ago when they were teenagers and put this thing on ice.
Yeah, it's not exactly streaking from the 60s, 70s, but I see what you're saying. Join us for the first time at the table, Alex Landau, community organizer at Denver Justice Center, Denver Justice Project, pardon me. So when you look at this idea, is it a step too far, or are they trying to solve a problem?
Yes, I believe it's definitely a step too far for several reasons. After reading these articles, I tried wrapping my mind around putting a misdemeanor charge to teen pregnancy, for example. Outrageous. What I think this does is it offers district attorneys more discretionary power. Who wouldn't take a plea bargain from felony, and they already have a plethora of felonies. They can do an F4, they can do an F3, or they can do an F6. So to create a class category of a Class 2 misdemeanor, I think is absurd, and it offers more wiggle room and plea bargaining leverage to district attorney offices. And yeah, like just to echo what was already said, kids will be kids, and humans will be humans. And at the end of the day, as long as there isn't any, outstanding, I just think that if the consent is there, if it's youth under the age and they're passing photos back and forth or whatever, that should be fine. If there's a 17-year-old and under dealing with an adult, who is in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s, etc., then we have a different scenario entirely.
That is all the time we have for Colorado Inside Postgame this week. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think. For everyone here at CPT12.org, I'm Dominic Dezzutti. Thanks for watching.